I'm very proud to be the commander of the 304th Mobile Public Affairs Detachment. We've had a fantastic year here at CENTCOM. Our media engagement program was very successful, in which we facilitated over 2,000 interviews with an audience reach of over 3 billion with service members in Afghanistan, Iraq, the Horn of Africa, and getting the stories that the American public otherwise wouldn't have heard of. An example is in Afghanistan, our team went forward and covered the provisional reconstruction teams and the construction of the Tarancot Road. The 864th engineers out of Fort Lewis constructed a road of about 117 kilometers from Kandahar to Tarancot, which reduced the travel time from about 15 hours down to 3 hours for the people of Afghanistan. Our media engagement team also deployed to Djibouti and Ethiopia and covered the humanitarian relief operations that our service members are performing in the Horn of Africa. Right after the Pakistan earthquake, we were the first team to get into Pakistan and get the relief images out into the international community. We established a mobile divots team, which was actually first tested during Hurricane Katrina, where our Atlanta team deployed to New Orleans to establish a mobile divots site to get the initial imagery of the hurricane operations out to the American people. The 304th conducted the first ever coalition divots missions, where we facilitated interviews and video from our coalition partners back into their home country, which increased the support for the coalition's contribution. Our community relations team set up many events throughout the greater Tampa area to include supporting the James Healy Veterans Administration Hospital, multiple color guard ceremonies at sporting events and different celebrations throughout the community. Our electronic engagement team set up the first ever blogging operation in the Department of Defense, where they engaged the alternative media, and we were able to get the successes and some of the positive stories that the mainstream media wouldn't cover out to the American public. This effort received some great praise by the Secretary of Defense. The work that the 304th did with the Coalition Public Affairs team in assisting them in developing the Coalition Bulletin and training them to be effective public affairs officers are going to pay dividends basically throughout the world. And overall, the mission has been extremely successful, and I'm very proud of all the contributions that the 304th has made in fighting the global war on terror and defeating the enemy in the information battle space.
The proudest achievement for this deployment, I would have to say, being the first sergeant. I feel I was able to give our soldiers an environment that they were able to succeed. They were given opportunities and given chances and allowed to step up and do things that normally a specialist, a young sergeant, or a staff sergeant wouldn't be able to do or be exposed to. We said, these guys know what they're doing, they have the talent, they have the skill, let's give them the opportunity. And they've stepped up. The memorable experience is watching Sergeant Crane and Lieutenant Anderson flip their canoes 5 times in a gator-infested river. The impact of this deployment, I would probably have to say that probably the most important thing is, or the highest impact, was the listening and understanding that our job is really helping the soldiers, sailors, Marines tell their story to the American people and how it's affecting them. I can't tell you how many times I've done interviews and listened in on them where actually I've gotten a little choked up having the soldier tell the story, what they're doing in the helping the Iraqi families or the Iraqi people just to get basic supplies, basic infrastructure, knowing that it's not just for the reporter, but the American people are going to be reading and listening and understanding what our soldiers and sailors, our service members are doing. Another impact is just, again, working with very talented public affairs specialists, public affairs officers, public affairs enlisted soldiers. I've learned a lot, how to deal with the media, how to coordinate, how to work with general officers, how to work with PAOs in theater. It taught me a lot, and working at this level, the day-to-day operations, seeing how it works, having to be aware of the news, what's happening every day, influences your day. So it's very important. Personally, how it's impacted me, it's allowed me to finish up my career on a positive note. This is my third deployment, and so ending this deployment, accomplishing a very productive, very successful mission is very important to me. We've done a very good job. We've done very good work. Our guys and gals have done a superior job that's going to be remembered here at CENTCOM and throughout the military for a long time. We've laid the foundation for a lot of changes that are happening in the public affairs field. My family, been away for over 12 months now, and I have a little daughter and a beautiful wife that I miss a lot, but they've been very supportive, very loving in knowing that we're doing a very important mission. I can't thank them enough.
My proudest moment has probably been watching all the different soldiers within the MPAD get promoted and how much they've learned throughout the deployment. I know when we first came together, there was a lot of question about how much experience and understanding of the mission that the junior soldiers of the unit had. And having the ability now to look back and see how much they've grown and how much they've accomplished has been very, very satisfying for me. The impact of this deployment has been my own understanding and education of public affairs. I've done quite a few different things. I've worked media, I've worked in Qatar, I've worked with General Kimmett. And between all of those aspects, I've learned a lot more about myself and a lot more about the craft. And I think I'm a better officer and a better public affairs person as a result. My most memorable moment would have to have been during our mobilization training at Fort Lewis. We did a convoy live fire, and during the live fire portion, one of our soldiers shot around a little too soon. And she knows who she is. Our commander, Major McNorton at the time, now Lieutenant Colonel McNorton, was getting out of a Humvee, and at the time he was getting out, everybody was supposed to have their weapons on safe. Unfortunately, this one particular soldier decided that she was going to engage the enemy and almost took Colonel McNorton's head off at the same time. Luckily, there was no damage, but that was probably the most memorable, close danger part of the deployment that I came in contact with.
There are many things at CENTCOM that I am proud of doing. The one that I'm most proud of would be building the website. I was able to take the old website and cross over all of that information and also improve that website. The old website had no audio, no video, no RSS feed, no podcasting, and I was able to implement that on the new website. This is the website that everyone uses for material for the news and for various other things that might be out there. The way that this deployment has impacted me is that I have been able to get a better understanding of what's going on during this war. Before I was deployed, I really didn't have a total understanding of what was going on. I didn't realize that there was still issues being fought in Afghanistan. And so by being deployed here, I've gotten a better understanding of what is going on over there in the AOR. My most memorable experience here at CENTCOM has been being able to go and march in the parades on Veterans Day. I really got a feeling of what it's like to be a veteran and what it's like to have people respect the uniform that you wear. We're able to reach out to some various veterans during that parade, and it really gave a good camaraderie feeling. There's nothing like feeling like you're with a group of people that you don't even know, but yet you all have this something in common. And so that was a really good, memorable experience.
My most memorable experience here in Tampa while being deployed at Central Command is my time at the James Haley VA Hospital. I was able to meet the service members that are there that have been injured from OEF and OIF. It was a very humbling experience to meet them, to see how brave and dedicated they are to the military today, even after they've been injured from Iraq or Afghanistan. Also, my most proudest achievement here has probably been outreaching to the community and explaining what Central Command actually does here in the community of Tampa, as well as what they do in our area of responsibility. A lot of people didn't know that there was actually Army soldiers at McDill Air Force Base. They just assumed everybody were Air Force airmen, and they weren't aware of how CENTCOM actually impacts this world. And we've been outreaching to high schools, elementary schools, local colleges, and also to business leaders in the Tampa Bay and Clearwater, St. Pete area as well. The community leaders in Tampa, they sort of took us under their wing, such as the Rough Riders, who do the teddy bear runs. They donate toys to local hospitals as well as local schools, and they also work with the Special Olympics. They have invited us to many of their events, such as local parades, as the Gasparilla Parade, and their evening parade, as well as their St. Patrick's Day Parade. And it was definitely a fun experience hanging out with those guys and seeing what they do in the community and showing us how fun Tampa could really be.
My most memorable moment, I would have to say, would be my entire 6 months in Qatar. It was very enlightening being immersed in the Middle Eastern culture. I was fortunate enough to be able to go downtown and shop, deal with some of the people on a personal level. So, you know, it was kind of eye-opening to be around people of a different culture, different religion. It's just an entirely different world. So I really enjoyed that experience. It really opened my eyes to how Islam and peoples in the Muslim world interact with Western culture. The way this deployment has impacted me is it's afforded me the opportunity to work with a lot of senior enlisted from different branches, Marines, Navy, Air Force, not too many Air Force, but mostly Marines and Navy. And we're all one when it comes to soldiering or fighting a global war on terrorism, but everyone brings a different thing to the pot. So I was able to take things from other services and give in turn our life experiences, which has helped me develop professionally, I think, tremendously. My proudest moment would be being a part of 304th and working with real soldiers on a global war on terrorism. If I had to do it again, I wouldn't hesitate.
For me, Afghanistan has always been one of those mysterious, exotic places I've read about since I was a kid that I always wanted to visit. And one of the greatest senses of accomplishment I've had from this deployment is the opportunity to travel there and meet the Afghani people. There's a nobility about them. They've suffered so much for so many thousands of years, and their tremendous love of freedom and their desire to be free is phenomenal. There's something about the Afghani people that is so much like us that comes across. Their expressions, their humor, their look, they could have been our ancestors. There's something about them that is so common to the experience we have of freedom-loving people. By going there and spending time with them, I was able to make some photographs and write some stories of my direct experience. But another area of accomplishment that I've gotten, one that I didn't really think I would get, was from media engagement. Now, media engagement meant I was back in the rear, linking people in theater with media people, not having the personal contact of being up there front with the soldiers. That's been my life experience. And I admit I was skeptical at first about being able to use my skills. But as we got more and more stories published or broadcast, I started getting feedback from family members, from service members, from newspaper editors, reporters, and broadcast people, how effective these were, the feedback they were getting from the American people, hearing stories and reading stories that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And that really made a big impression on me too, that we can make a difference even in a more remote operation. When I look at the experiences that are most memorable for me are the people that I've worked with and met in the coalition, fellow service members, and also the Afghani people too. Again, the strong personalities that come out and the bonding, they're willing to bond with us because they sense that we're there not to occupy, but we're there to partner with them. We're the first army that's ever invaded Afghanistan in 2,500 years that hasn't tried to merely occupy, but tried to help them. And the friendships, even on short notice, I'll always take those with me. There's another side of the memorable part, of course, too, and that's when we lose friends. Soldiers get killed, and this happens there, and losing friends is always very, very difficult. I lost a good friend there, too, the day before I got to Kandahar to visit her. Thinking about the impact that this deployment has made on me, there's really two things. One, of course, not being able to see my grandkids, family, wife, daughters for the last year and a half, not being able to be around my dogs, not seeing my grandkids growing up. My granddaughter Maya called me on the phone the other day and she goes, "Jonathan, will I be 5 or will I be 6 when you come back?" I said, "Man, you'll still be 5, Maya." The other impact I have is a more positive one, is knowing that we have made a difference in public affairs. It isn't just about me getting to go to the field, make pictures, write stories, but finding out that what we're doing is a critical part of the new information war, the war of people's opinion, and it is making a difference.
The thing that I'm probably most proud of during this whole deployment is the fact that I got to go and help the Iraqi people. I'm an anthropology major, and I absolutely loved to sit down with little boys and girls in other countries, or beyond that, even the parents or whoever, and really try to look into their eyes and show them what America really is, that we're not what they see on TV, that we're humans just like them, and we're here with a purpose, and we really want to make a difference for their country, for our country, and that together we can make things happen. The one memory that is ingrained into me is the loss of Sergeant First Class Isaac Lawson. He was a good man, paid dear price for his country, and I know it won't be lost on him, because every day he and everyone else walk down the streets and go up to little kids in Iraq, give them high fives, give them hugs, give them candy, smile at them. And I think that's really important, just to leave that big impression on the next generation of Iraqis and show them that we're here for them. And he was a dear friend that I barely got to know, and I will always consider him my brother, and knowing that he's made a big impact on Iraqis and all the soldiers that he served with alike.
What has impacted me the most about this deployment is the impact that we're making. I'll give you an example. The Boston Herald ran an article based on an interview that I facilitated about a Marine First Sergeant in Djibouti who was teaching Djiboutian orphans how to play baseball. In the article, the First Sergeant explained that they were renovating the soccer field, the basketball court, and different parts of the orphanage. And next thing I know, I get a call from a talk show host in Boston. The guy, Mo Elijah, he was asking me, what can he do to help these orphans? The guy almost fell out of his chair when I told him that I can have the First Sergeant live from Djibouti on his radio show. So it worked out, we got the First Sergeant on the air, and it just blew me away, the amount of donations that people pledged. At the time of the interview, First Sergeant Goba had 3 months left in Djibouti, and when he came back, he said that boxes were still coming in. And the unit that took over the mission, they also took over what he started at the orphanage in Djibouti. Also, the relationship that Sergeant Johnson and I forged with the Fox Sports radio network would send them sound bites of military members just talking sports. And the feedback that we got from that really surprised me. And we would talk to the producer, and he would say, X amount of phone calls were generated from someone in theater just talking about different sports issues. And that was always a chance to get the word out about what's really going on in theater. My proudest achievement, just being on the front line of the information war in the information age. I've had some small victories that I can look back on and just be grateful that I was a part of. My most memorable moment, there's not just one. Going into Ethiopia, and every Ethiopian I ran into thinking that I'm Ethiopian.
What do you think about your color, about your face? You seems like an Ethiopian.
Then I come back to the States at Dulles Airport, and I see these Ethiopian girls at a pretzel stand, and I go and try to convince them that I'm Ethiopian. And they tell me that there's no way that I'm Ethiopian because Ethiopian guys are cute. The two-man shovel team in Pakistan is something I'll never forget. I'd like to turn that into a screensaver. In Djibouti, the Djiboutians dumping garbage in the back of their barracks and then posting a guard to fire blanks at baboons who come and eat the garbage instead of dumping the garbage somewhere else is mind-boggling. I'll never forget that. What else? I don't know.
My proudest achievement, I would have to say, is watching my soldiers reach their full potential. We've been through a lot. Fort Lewis to Tampa to Qatar to all over the AOR, depending upon the random missions. Probably one of the proudest things is to watch that you can inspire somebody and help them. And it's to hear them say, like in a speech or up in front of a group getting re-enlisted, to say that, you know, you made a difference in their life is huge. The most memorable experience on this deployment has been the mental and spiritual scrapbook of faces and names and characters. I could write a book about all the individuals I've encountered on this deployment, whether it's been, you know, indigenous people, you know, Pakistanis or Afghanis or Iraqis, Qataris. A lot of the countries that we went into, they probably were not that pleased that I was there. We're not necessarily welcome in these countries, although there's a large sect of folks who wanted us there and knew that we were doing great things. What you hold as important, it really helps you narrow the focus and the scope on what you feel is truly important in life. And I think the biggest thing is being deployed and being on this deployment has taken me away from my safety net of family, friends, and familiar situations in Seattle, and it's forced me to see myself out of context.
The first steps I took off the aircraft when we landed in Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan was definitely a very proud point for me during this deployment. Just walking around Bagram, the base there in uniform, weapon, magazine loaded, doing the whole soldier thing. For me, it felt very good, and also to be a part of just the whole war effort and being part of something global that is affecting, you know, you could say billions of people across the world that see it on the news or are actually there involved. I'm very proud of that fact that I can say that I'm a part of that. As far as memorable experiences go, the food in the Middle East is definitely probably the most memorable experience. Be it the food on Gulf Air, which is like a gourmet feast that I'd never experienced before. And the hummus over there was just fantastic, and being introduced to shawarma, definitely very memorable, and I'll be eating that stuff till I die. This deployment has affected me in a couple ways. It all comes down to me paying attention to what's going on around the world. I've never really paid attention to the news. I never got into politics or anything like that. And since we've been deployed and being involved in the media part of the war, you're kind of forced to pay attention to those things, and it's very educational, and it makes me feel like almost like I've grown up a little bit since on this deployment. So that's very overall, this deployment has just been good to me. The per diem is fantastic, and so is the living accommodations and the manatees.
I would say that being part of the blog team is something that I will remember, I think, most about this deployment, just because this is something that military public affairs has never done before, and you know, to be able to be a part of that, you know, to be on the cutting edge, to do this groundbreaking work that's going to be remembered, you know, long after we leave. Having a chance to shape the direction that military public affairs is going in is something that I'm very proud of, and I'm happy to be a part of it. I think some of the things I'm going to remember the most about this deployment are the, you know, the traveling I think that we did, going to Africa. Africa's a place I've always wanted to go to, and being able to go and see, you know, Djibouti and Ethiopia was great, and getting a chance to go to Pakistan, another place you always hear about, but not some place you would normally get to go see. and being up in the Kashmir and, you know, seeing the effect that the U.S. you know, service members were having on the people there after the earthquake, I thought was great, and I definitely always remember that. And I remember Qatar as well, you know, open expanse of sand and little else, rocks, hot. And, that's something I won't forget either. So the changes over the course of the last year, I think, are hard to see when you're in your own shoes. But I definitely think that it has impacted me, this deployment. You know, being able to look back at, you know, the soldier I was a year ago and seeing the soldier that I am now and the type of work that I've done, you know, has given me a lot wider scope of how things, not only in the Army, but have public affairs, and I think that it's helped me develop my skills as far as my job. And I'm looking forward to the rest of my Army career too now, I mean, however long it ends up being, just because I can always look back at this experience and say, you know, you did this. You know, this was when you were a new soldier, when you were a young soldier. This is something that you did. You put your stamp on it. So.
I'd say the thing I'm proudest of was the fact that I was able to actually take my dad here and show him CENTCOM. He was the first person that I ever knew who was in the military. He was in the Army, and I always envied him for that. So I was really happy to be able to show him where it is that we work, and the fact that he really enjoyed it meant the world to me. Professionally, I'd say that the thing I'm proudest of is that this has actually worked. This is something where there was a lot potentially against what we were doing in terms of the blogging effort. This had never been done before. None of us knew if it would work. We hoped that it would, but the reaction has just been phenomenal. And the fact that we've actually been able to get these stories out to a worldwide audience has just been fantastic. What's most memorable? Seeing the president was something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to see a standing president, a president in office. And when President Bush was here, to actually get to shoot photos of him and get one of him actually waving at me was just a blast. And I do want to have that blown up and framed and keep that at home when this deployment is over. That was incredible. I'd say the way that this mission has affected me, what I'll carry, is the experience of just dealing with all the coalition folks, just all the different SNRs. To a person, they've been absolute professionals, they've been cordial, they've been nice, and it's astounding that so many people of so many different backgrounds can find a commonality. The stakes are really high. The enemy that we face is pretty formidable, but the fact that everyone here is able to come together despite all of our different backgrounds from literally all over the world it's really humbling. It's really fantastic. And I've tried to appreciate every single day that I've been here, and seeing the flags flying in the Coalition Village it's been a constant reminder, and I will never forget that.
What has impacted me the most on this deployment, when I went to Qatar, I had to run the office as a specialist for Sergeant First Class Parker. I had to take care of airport runs. We had a media visit. I had to figure out how to do things on my own. You know, this was the first time that usually as a specialist I could always go to somebody else for the answer, but I had to have the answers. In the media visit, you know, there was a lot of coordination that had to be done. I had to make sure that there was an SSL letter done for the reporter's camera gear so he could get it onto the CENTCOM compound. I had to make sure that our vehicle could get onto the compound. I also had to make sure there was host nation coordination done with that, with the running of the office and trying to come up with things on my own. Sometimes I just didn't know how to find an office or where they were or to find a number. You know, it wasn't like there was a directory necessarily like there is here, or the proper way to get things done, and I couldn't go to the officers for that. When I had to put out what's called the early news summary, and my proudest moments are that General Comstock told me I did a good job with the early news summary, and I got a coin from General Abizaid for running the office when I did during that 2-week period. My proudest moment would be when I went to college out there on top of all of this. So my most memorable moment is getting the 2 A's that I did.
I would have to say my proudest achievement is my work in Pakistan and Iraq. We made things happen that nobody expected was going to come to fruition. In Pakistan, everything we did seemed to have some kind of vice against us. And in Iraq, I met more people from different countries than I've ever had in my life. My most memorable experience was actually that when I was in Iraq with Mongolians. And I found myself being adopted by them. We immediately took to each other, and I was so impressed by their patriotism, their pride, and their drive to accomplish what any soldier around the world could do. And as I taped them each day and followed them around, we just grew increasingly closer. And them and their little Genghis Khan keychain that they gave me when I left, and the airborne wings, and they asked me to come to Mongolia sometime, which I don't think will ever happen, but we'll see. This deployment has changed me a lot. It's changed me forever. I think I'll just see that this world's so much more than my little United States view, and what the media has to tell me, and seeing things firsthand on the ground, like in Iraq and Pakistan, and what people actually live through and have to go through, and the pain, the suffering, the poverty, and it makes me grateful, and I also see how much I can accomplish when things get tough.
My most memorable experience would have to be when I met President Bush on the Iwo Jima. He went to shake my hand, and I pulled him in for a hug, and I really don't think he was expecting that, or a Secret Service for that matter. I think Hurricane Katrina rates right there with my most memorable experience. I'd never seen devastation like that before. I mean, everything was underwater. Everything, when the water subsided, was really gooey. And we went out with the SWAT team, and checked in on houses and other people to see how they were doing. It was definitely memorable. It was an experience that I don't think I'll ever forget. Processing the videos and the print stories that come through the satellite system has really given me an inside look on all the good and all the help that we're doing over there, and all the appreciation. I kind of get to see what a lot of other people don't get to see, and it feels good. I just want to shout from the rooftops, we're doing great over here. I think I've grown a lot during this deployment. It's kind of taken the edge off me. I've met a lot of great people and a lot of really good friends that I'm going to really miss.
Being part of Patton's own 3rd Army is definitely my proudest achievement. Everything that I've done has taught me how to be a better soldier. I think that all the missions that I was sent on, all the things that I volunteered to do, from issuing ACUs to taking photos at the Modern Army Combatives Tournament, I think has all taught me more about the military. Being part of the Divids mission and working with Lieutenant Colonel Beckman and his team, amazing pioneers in public affairs, I've learned so much about where public affairs is going. And I'm really proud of the soldiers that are over there, the airmen and the sailors alike, and the Marines as well. Everything that they're doing over there in Iraq and Afghanistan, Africa, the stories that you see come out of there are amazing. My most memorable experience was definitely deploying down to the Gulf during the Hurricane Katrina relief efforts. I think that everything that we did there taught me more about being a good soldier and about being a good American than anything I've ever done. We were able to help in ways that we didn't think we would be able to. When we got there, we were out with the SWAT team, covering, taking photos of them working, watching them do their job, and it taught me more about what it means to be a good American and help out in a community that's devastated by a natural disaster. Being able to go up in helicopters and survey the damage from the air was definitely impactful. I realized at that point what actually had happened to that city. To see it completely covered in water from the air was just unbelievable. It was sad, but also at the same time you saw the efforts being made to pump out the city, get the water out, get the people back as soon as possible so they can rebuild their life and their city. It's an amazing city, and I hope that I can visit it again someday and be able to celebrate with the people of New Orleans that they have their city back. This deployment has definitely been a lot of fun. Serving here with Specialist Kremutolo, all the things that we got the chance to do and all the places we got to see, I will never forget this. I will never forget being in Atlanta and just how beautiful the city is. When we went to New Orleans, she was amazing. She was able to just get right in there, get us set up. If it wasn't for her, it would have been difficult. You know, she was definitely my rock in that hard place. And then on a personal side, we bought motorcycles and we bought puppies, and we were able to enjoy our time here, not only as soldiers, but just our time here together and being friends. And I think that's one of my proudest things and my most memorable things about this deployment is being here with her.
Well, I've been impacted, I think, on a number of levels with this deployment. This has really taught me how to stick with what I'm doing, how to overcome obstacles, the diligent work ethic that I see displayed by my leaders on a day-to-day basis. I plan to use as a template out in, so that's applicable to both civilian or the remainder of my military career. One of the most memorable experiences of my life, let alone the mission, was in Afghanistan. This kid was working on a microhydro development site, and as soon he just did a double take, and as soon as he saw we had a whole convoy coming by, and he saw me with the camera, and all it took was just that much, and he set his shovel aside, calm and collected, and just raised his hand and just saluted right there. I mean, I really don't like to play the numbers game, so to speak, but my extremely high and climbing tally on interviews, 200. I'm pretty happy with that. I've put in a hard work ethic from the very beginning of the moment in time that we got out here, and I think it goes to show. And I'm also fairly proud of the stories that got published that happened in Afghanistan. I did 3. I got wonderful photos, and I was just so thankful for that opportunity that I had to do that.
My proudest achievement during this deployment would have to probably be when I got to meet the Chief of Staff, General Shoemaker. That was when Lieutenant Huntsman put my name in for a nomination, and I got to get an award from him. That was a pretty proud moment for me and also for my family. Another one that probably rivals that is the time that I was behind the grill here at CENTCOM Forward, and Major General Diamond came up to me, pointed at me and said, "And that was a good burger." That is probably one of my other proudest moments of this deployment. My most memorable experience during this deployment is going up to Iraq, getting to go out on the convoys with the military police up there, the police transition teams, and getting to go through Sadr City and seeing just how the Iraqi people live and why we're up there, and what we're doing up there. And this deployment has impacted me in many ways. It's made me want to go to West Point more. It's also impacted me because I've gotten to know a lot of my fellow comrades quite a bit. I don't think I've seen anyone as much as I have seen Staff Sergeant Michael Scar. It's been a fun year with him. I don't think I've gone everywhere with him. And this deployment, that's how it's impacted me.
My proudest moments were being promoted from private to private first class by a 2-star general in Qatar. And my photos that I took of the Pakistan relief efforts in Afghanistan got published in the Stars and Stripes. My most memorable experiences were playing in the Xbox room and me being one of the best on Camp Asalia. I created a lot of frustration on people. So one day I was playing with a big group of people, and then I could hear someone saying, "Ah, Gilgamesh, he haunts my dreams," Gilgamesh being my screen name. That was something I really enjoyed. And how this deployment impacted me, well, it gave me a lot more in-depth look on the war going on right now. I got a better understanding of what's going on in a broader perspective, and just basically a lot more information. And also, being stationed at CENTCOM, I got a good understanding of the different services that I work with, Navy, Marines, Air Force. I got a better understanding of their rank structure and just how they work.